to see us on, see the recording of this, it will be on YouTube. Also, if you guys are interested in, any other types of webinars and things like that we do, I'd recommend that you see us on, there you go. That's the webinar live on YouTube right now. So yeah, basically if you go search YouTube, we'll talk about this in a little bit as well. But if you search YouTube, I'm going to put, actually, I'll put the link to this right now in the chat. Right, there you go. So I put the link out into the chat so you guys can actually join, and you guys can see us live on YouTube as well. So you can see that in the chat. All right. Okay, great. So welcome to our webinar. All right. And today what we're going to talk about is machine learning for trading. And we're going to show you a little demo of how we have this working and kind of what you expect to see in a full class, right? Expect to see in a full course, right? So Greg, do you want to move ahead slide?
Sure.
Okay, so this is our agenda for today. We're first going to go get to know you guys a little bit better, get to know who's on this call. We're going to do a little introduction to Lumi Wealth, myself, and to Greg, right? And then we're going to jump right into all the machine learning stuff. We're going to go a little bit over some theory, and then we're going to show you some code, and we're going to show you the demo, right? By the end of that, we're also going to cover the course, so you'll be able to see what you can learn from this course as well, right? Okay, great. So let's first of all get to know you guys a little bit better. So first of all, what is, if you guys can type this into the chat, right? What is your occupation? Let us know if you know how to program, right? And how much investment experience do you have, right? So are you brand new to investing? Is this something you've been doing for a while? So let us know. You can type all that stuff out into the chat. I'll kick it off a little bit. So my occupation, I'm a CEO of Lumi Wealth, right? So it's my job to make sure that things go well in this company, right? And, obviously keep growing things and keep our customers happy. Do I know how to program? Yes, I've been programming for 22 years now. I think it's been a little while. And then how much investment experience do I have? I started probably in 2016, right before the giant meltdown. So definitely a very good learning experience going through that sort of thing. All right, we got some people coming out here. So Neil says he's in the hotel industry. He knows how to program, and he's been in the investment experience for 12 years. Awesome. Thanks, Neil. Welcome. All right. I'll let the rest of you guys write that out as well. But I think we can continue, and we'll listen into your chats as well for when you guys write that out. Okay, cool. So first of all, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'll introduce Greg a little bit, and he can talk about himself at the end of this as well. But who am I? My name is Robert. I'm the CEO of Lumi Wealth. We started this company about 2.5 years ago. We've grown quite a bit since. My background is I'm a master's in finance. I worked on Wall Street for some amount of time, helped to build a couple startups. One of the startups that I helped build back in the day is worth a little over $3 billion now, which is pretty nice. Got a pretty good payday from that. And now really my focus is on Lumi Wealth and this company, growing this and turning Lumi Wealth into something very special, right? So what is Lumi Wealth and why do we exist, right? So Lumi Wealth is really all about using software to help people with investing, right? There's lots of ways to do that, but we very strongly believe in this, this philosophy because software has made almost everything else better in the world, right? You can think of any industry, software has played a major role in it, and investing is not any different, right? The typical things that software can do is make things cheaper, make things easier, make things faster, right? And also create things that didn't exist before, right? So that's what we're all about, is using software to create, allow people to get better investment returns, to allow people to manage their risks better, allow people to invest in new types of assets, right? So that's what we're all about. Right now, we're spending a lot of time doing that through education. We have several different courses. The one you're looking at here, machine learning for trading, right? We also have an algorithmic trading course. We also have a we also have an algorithmic trading course, an options trading course, and we have a machine learning for trading course. We also recently came out with a blockchain programming course. So you can learn basically how to create your own things on the blockchain, create your own NFTs or crypto coins, things like that. So we have lots of great courses, right? And of course, if you're here, you're listening to this, then you're interested in the machine learning aspect of things, which I think is fascinating, and Greg will tell you all about that. There's some amazing, amazing things happening in machine learning in general across the world. Think, self-driving cars and, Netflix recommendations, and basically all of Facebook and Instagram basically works off of machine learning these days. Search algorithms, you name it. There's all sorts of like amazing things happening right now using machine learning. You know, robots that you talk to, Alexa, and there's so many different things, right? So this kind of stuff is really obviously creating a big impact in the world. Imagine if you could build a self-driving car using it. What can you do in investing with it, right? Like a self-driving investment vehicle, if you will, right? And a lot of other things that are really interesting, and I've seen people make quite a bit of money doing, right? So I think I'll let Greg kind of take you through that as well. But before we continue, let's make sure you guys see us on YouTube. Greg, do you want to click on that link really quickly?
Sure.
For YouTube? I'm also going to share this with you guys into the chat so you guys can see it. But there's our YouTube channel. We have lots of really good stuff on there. I strongly suggest that you guys go in there, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. And the reason why is because we have a lot of content on here for you guys to basically look over. Yeah, so lots and lots of stuff in here. Everything from lots of stuff. Everything from our past webinars, which are free classes on things. You'll see interviews that we had with a lot of investment professionals. We did a lot of stuff on Bitcoin and blockchain. And we keep adding more and more stuff here for free. So there's lots of really good stuff for you guys to check out. So make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Also in here in this channel is basically the recording of this, right? So if you guys want to see the recording of this class or webinar afterwards, you'll be able to find it on our YouTube channel right now. So Greg, if you click on home, actually even there, you see that's live, right? This is us right now live on YouTube. As soon as we are done with this live thing will turn into a recording, and you guys will be able to watch it again if you guys are interested in seeing some things over again. Right. So that's our YouTube. I also put that link into the chat. The other thing is our Discord, right? Greg, do you have Discord open on your? Yeah. So there you go.
I already accepted your invite, but okay.
Yeah, it must be under a different account. I know you have two. There's two of you actually on our server. But if you guys come in here and you see, you could click on a bunch of these different spots here. We have everything from investment ideas to our alumni on here. If you want to see past students, kind of what they've made, we want to talk to them about things. We have lots of stuff on crypto, some great discussions here, lots of very smart people. We also have voice channels, people talk over voice, right? So it's a very vibrant community, lots of really smart people that are building some great things. Our past students, our future students, people have built bots on here. If you guys are interested in the space, this is definitely the place to go. Again, I put that link inside the chat, so make sure you click on that link, check it out, join our Discord. If you're watching this afterwards on our website, then there's also a button down there for Discord. But it's a great community to join, and it's really quite spectacular, the things that people are building on there. And if you want to learn about our past students, future students, you want to get to know some people, you want to find people that have similar interests, or if you want to get to know students and see what their experience was, this is the way to get it, right? This is a way to get all that information. So definitely join our Discord, and I think you'll very much appreciate that, right? Okay, cool. So that's our Discord, that's our YouTube. Also, just a quick reminder, there's a survey at the end of the webinar. Make sure you fill out that survey. We do read those things, and it is quite helpful for us to improve all of our services for you, right? Cool. Okay. So I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to pass it over to Greg, who is a genius in this space. I believe, what would you say, you started coding when you were 7 years old?
6, actually.
Yes. So started coding when he was 6 years old. He went to Berkeley. He went to Stanford, actually at Stanford right now, right? crazy resume. Got his company funded by some of the best venture capitalist companies in the world. But I'll let Greg kind of explain to you his experience and why he's the man basically for machine learning and trading.
Okay, thank you, Robert. So yeah, just definitely want to encourage you guys to jump on the Discord. It's actually a lot of great discussion there. So so that's definitely a good pointer, Robert. Yeah, so a little bit more about my background. Yeah, so I've been programming for a long time. Caltech, Berkeley, Stanford. Started a venture-funded company. Did 4 startups actually. Current company is Pico Group, which does a lot of work around algorithmic trading. So been in the space for a bit. And I don't know, Robert, is this the 6th time I'm teaching? I don't know. It seems like a lot. So quite a few times. So definitely, we're able to get it better every single time. So thank you guys for joining. Just want to also encourage you guys to jump if you're watching this from Zoom, to jump on our chat. We also have a Q&A thing, so you feel free to ask questions there. Robert will try to make sure I don't miss any questions. I know some of you guys joined a little bit later, so what I'm going to do is Robert has this nice thing here, which let me see if I could select it. Let me just see if I could put this into the chat. Yeah, so if for those that join later, you can just try to do this, and it will be helpful just to get to know who's on the Zoom. Okay, so let me move forward here. So the core of forecasting is really trading. So if you think about what are you doing when you're trading, you're basically trying to anticipate where whatever security you're having to trade, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's the S&P 500, whether it's some sort of foreign exchange, you're trying to anticipate what the price movement is going to be. That's kind of like the essence of what you're doing. Of course, there's many layers of sophistication that you can do, but that's the core of what's happening. So forecasting is really, really important. And so that's nothing new, right? Everyone knows that. So what people have been doing for the past, I don't know, 40 years or so, have been using traditional indicators like RSI, Relative Strength Index, which is what you kind of see down here. This is an example of a stock called the TSG, the STARS group. And people have been using these kind of indicators as a way to kind of see a signal as to when there's going to be, let's say, a run up in the stock, right? Or maybe when the run up is going to stop. So in this example here, you see that when it breaks 66.6, it begins this kind of run up, right? It begins this run up in the stock, and then but when it hits the bottom part here, it kind of flattens out. And as you can see, that this is kind of a noisy signal, because you could definitely see other times when it hits 66 that it's kind of like not terribly accurate, but it's something that people have been doing a lot. So there's hundreds of these kind of traditional indicators, Bollinger Bands. I mean, if you guys go on to Reddit, there's just a ton of chatter about this kind of stuff. And what people use these indicators for is really to kind of forecast, right? It's a way of forecasting where's the future price of the security going to be. So this is the core of trading. Now, the problem with traditional trading indicators is that maybe if you were doing this 40, 50 years ago, it would have been pretty awesome. But these days, the problem is that most of the people you're trading with, especially in the stock market, is not another human, right? You're trading against basically a bunch of bots, right? So most of the trading is actually done algorithmically. And there's this really great website, which if you guys haven't read, it's really good. It's called Seeking Alpha. So there's a lot of great investment strategies and advice on there. And one of the things they talked about was, because of this, because the trading dominates so much, algorithmic trading dominates so much of the stock market, a lot of the really profitable trading strategies based on these really simple indicators like RSI or Bollinger Bands or moving average or things like that have really been kind of whittled away. So it's a lot harder these days if you're just using these really basic trading strategies to make money. It's a lot of the profitability has been kind of squeezed out because the algorithmic trading bots kind of already do it already. So you need these kind of arbitrage opportunities that are surfaced by these simple trading indicators, really you can't make much money from them, if at all, right? It's really, really tough now. The second issue with traditional trading indicators, besides the fact that there's a bot out there that can calculate it faster than you can and move and trade faster than you can, and that too many people are doing it, is that these really simple indicator models don't really have the capacity to capture complex forecasting patterns. So with these, if you look at these indicators, they're usually like maybe one or two parameters, right? So there's just a few simple numbers that it's or parameters that these models have, and so really complex price movements are hard for the indicator to be able to give you a clear signal as to what's going on. And so for the individual, this means that when you're trying to get that edge against other traders, it's actually pretty tough. So so this is the problem, right? Too many people are doing it, and not just too many people, but the algorithmic trading, the computers are blinding fast, right? There's no way you could beat the speed of once it discerns like a certain indicator that something's going to happen, it's going to pounce on it right away. And then if when you're trying to figure out more sophisticated kind of patterns, forecasting patterns, the simple indicators just don't cut it anymore. So it's problematic, and this is why I think a lot of the technical analysis, not that it doesn't work, it's just a lot less effective than it used to be. So this is the problem with the traditional indicators. So so with traditional indicators, the nice thing is that they're very easy to calculate and understand, right? Everyone understands what moving average is, right? Not terribly hard to figure out or calculate. This was great way back when before everyone had an Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheets. But these days, when everyone has that and there's all these bots doing it, it's really hard. The other big factor with the traditional indicators is that they have limited ability to factor in different information. So they can't really figure out can't really figure out more complex patterns, and also because they're so well known now, it's hard to get that edge, right? Like I said earlier. Now, on the other hand, machine learning, the advantage here is that, or the drawback here, and the reason why it's only come to play recently, is that it's computationally very complex, right? It's not something you can just calculate in a spreadsheet. Usually you're doing some Python programming, you have to understand, some of the libraries and whatnot. So it's much harder to implement. But the real big advantage is that it gives you the ability to factor in different information. So these models could be a lot bigger, and because they're a lot bigger, they can handle a lot more complex patterns than you could otherwise. So that's actually really important. And then the third factor is, because there's a much higher barrier to entry than traditional indicators, this tends to be much more cutting edge. So not everyone's doing it. In fact, even some of the really big investment banks, traders out there don't use machine learning yet, mainly because it is very cutting edge, right? And it's something which a lot of these traditional institutions tend to be very conservative, and a lot of the machine learning, unfortunately, is kind of black box. So there's a reluctance for a lot of organizations to actually use them. But this basically opens up an opportunity for individual traders to get that edge that you couldn't get with traditional indicators. And again, just wanted to encourage everyone, to feel free to ask questions as we go. So anything that I'm not explaining well, just please ping me on it. Okay, so I talked a lot about machine learning. So what the heck is machine learning? So the way to understand machine learning is to look at traditional programming versus machine learning. So with conventional programming, you're feeding in data. You're feeding the program. In this case, maybe it's like Python, right? So data would be maybe like what the date of today is, right? You put in like today is 12/7, right? And so it will try to predict what the result is on 12/7, right? Based on that. So that's an example of the inputs and the outputs of conventional programming, right? So you explicitly telling the computer what to do. Now with machine learning, it looks very, very similar, but the big thing is that they swap the program and the results. So what you're putting into the machine learning model isn't um, isn't a Python program per se, right? You're using Python to train it, but you're not using Python to program it. And what's happening is you're putting in what's called training data, right? So let's say in this example, I put in 12.7 and have a Python program that's going to predict, what's the price going to be on 12.7. In this case, what it's happening is you're putting in what the price is going to be. So let's say it's, stock, let's say it's Google, right? It's going to be $1,000, right? It predicts it's going to be $1,000. You put in the result, and then the machine learning figures out the program. So it's kind of similar to what's happening here, except it's flipped around. So machine learning is actually more similar to the way you learn. So if you think about the way you learn, there's very few people out there where some sort of neurosurgeon opened up someone's brain and hardwired how to, ride a bicycle, right? That's just not how it typically happens. What happens is usually you get some training, right? You basically practice, you keep trying, and you fall, you keep trying until you figure it out. So that's more how machine learning works. So machine learning is actually easier for people, I think, for the average person to understand, because it's actually the way most of us learn, right? Conventional programming is something which most of us have not experienced, except for people who've had brain surgery, right? So in some ways, this is easier for people to associate with in terms of how it works. In fact, there's actually a lot less programming per se than with traditional conventional programming, because the model is doing a lot of the work. But what this means is that what you need to do, though, is you need to have a good training data, right? So just like if you guys think about yourselves, when you were in school, all of us had great teachers, right? And so having having the right kind of training data for the model is really, really important. And so you gotta think of yourself as like the teacher of these models. Okay, so like why machine learning, right? Why do people get so excited about it? So I'll talk a little bit about my company, Pico Group. So my company does some work around consulting for algorithmic trading. So we'll do that. We host it in the cloud on Google. We provide an interface to it, as well as a bunch of fail safes. We provide a backtesting environment, as well as an interface to do that backtesting. And then we have a bunch of off-the-shelf machine learning models that we use as building blocks. And if you look at, and I just want to put up the safe harbor. So whatever Robert or I say today, this is just purely for your information. This is not investment advice at all. But with that little disclosure out of the way, so if you look at like machine learning based investors, right? So there's a really great measure of investment performance, and I'm not sure everyone has seen it. It's called the Sharpe Ratio. Let me try and make this bigger. So this is the Sharpe Ratio, and basically it looks a little bit complex, but it really isn't. Basically, what it's measuring is how is the performance versus the risk, right? So if you have like the standard deviation, a lot of risk, right? Then like a lot of volatility, basically, the returns are going to be a lot higher, right? So it's kind of like a risk reward ratio, right? So anything usually anything over one's good, and for the average machine learning investor, they got about 3.3, which is amazing, right? And then the average compounding annual growth rate is about 42%. So this is kind of the motivation, and the reason why machine learning works really well is because there are opportunities out there to make some profit, but you can think about it like you're trying to pick pennies off the ground, right? There's a lot of pennies on the ground, but it's not that much money per picking up each penny. But if you could do it automatically using machine learning and algorithmic trading, you could actually take a strategy that maybe is not incredibly profitable, but because it's automated, it's actually worth it. So that's kind of the basic idea behind machine learning. Oh, sorry. Neil asked me a question here. I'll just type it in for you guys. I just said it kind of fast. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys kind of a quick demo here. If you guys don't know, Alpaca is a really great commission-free broker. They have great APIs, probably one of the best APIs in the industry. We're going to use a Python 3. Pandas is kind of like the Excel of Python. There's a library called TA, technical analysis. It's a Python library that has, I think 100 or so um, uh, function calls to do technical analysis. Scikit-learn, which is a really basic machine learning Python library. Google Colab, which allows you to do kind of like interactive Python notebooks. It's free, so it's a pretty good deal. And Google Cloud Platform. So Google has a it's really nice because they have really great services, AI services, and also like generally when people run their code in production, I encourage them to actually run it in the cloud versus on the laptop at home, just because you never know when someone's going to trip on the power cord or your internet's going to go out, and if you don't want that happening when you're in the middle of trading. And then we're also going to use Google Natural Language Processing. So these are some of the tools that we're going to be using. So I'll give you the high-level overview. Oh, actually, maybe what I'll do first, because I need to get this started because it takes a while for it to run. Let me show you. Example. So I'm going to run this algorithm and kick it off. It's a little bit like a cooking show. So I'm going to kick this off, and then you will be able to look at the results later. So I'm going to select Alpaca. We're going to do a back test. We're going to do a stock trade, and then we're not going to worry about bid-ask spreads right now. So no, we're not going to retrain it multiple times. We're going to basically, I'm going to just pick a date here. Just do it when the market opens. Okay, and then 15 p.m. Okay, I'm gonna start with $10,000 cash. Let's go to the next thing. Okay, we're gonna just use a simple trade for now, and then let's see, we're gonna do it based off of a. So if the price of the stock is more than 0.3, predicted to be more than 0.3 higher, then it will buy. And if it's 0.3 lower, it will sell. So I'm going to select the stock here, and we do 10 shares at a time. And these are going to be no and yes. Let's see the next one. And then we're just going to use a random forest rolling model. This is a type of machine learning model. And we're going to forecast 15 minutes in the future and then trade in 15-minute increments. Okay. Okay, so now it's running. Okay, so we'll let this thing run. And then after I'm going to walk through the code now, because that takes about 20 minutes or so to run. So let me walk through the code, and then we can look at some of the results. So yeah, so we're going to do some work around setting up Alpaca. And then if you guys don't know, FinViz is a great financial website. It has lots of data on there that you guys can use to do trading. So we're going to scrape it with Beautiful Soup. We're going to do the data prep to get the training data together as well as the test data. Then we're going to train the model. We're going to generate the predictions, and we're going to analyze the results. So let me show you what the code looks like now. Okay, so for those of you guys that don't know, this is Google Colab. The way and if it's too small for you guys, just let me know. But maybe I'll make it bigger because I think it's a little bit small. Okay, good. Let me make this bigger. Okay, so up here we're just basically doing a bunch of importing of packages so that we could use these libraries. We authenticate with Google Colab, so we have access to the cloud here, and then here I don't like having secrets in code, and generally I also encourage you guys not to put any secrets in your code. So I use something called Secret Manager in Google, and that way we don't have to worry about your account getting hacked. And then so we get the secrets from the secret manager, and then we initialize Alpaca, right, with the keys that we got from the secret manager. And then what we do here is we authenticate with Google. And also we're going to be doing some NLP stuff. So we're going to use the libraries from Google to access Google Cloud. And then this is the credentials for us. And then so we initiate the model, and then this function here is basically going to analyze sentiment. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually I should show you guys the FinViz website first, so you have an idea. So this is the FinViz website. So let's just, for example, look at Agilent, right? This is a stock. This is a job I just kicked off, right? So we're doing a algorithmic back test on Agilent right now, and so as you can see, there's a lot of great information. But one thing that it has is it has like this news feed, right? You can see all the different news articles that are coming in on this stock. And so what we're going to do is we're going to scrape that using Beautiful Soup, and then we're going to plug that content into this function. And what this is going to do, this is going to return a sentiment score. So it's going to look at, let's say, a headline like this. Okay, and it will look at this and look at the sentiment and say, well, I as a human, I'll look at this and think, oh, this is probably positive, right? This is probably positive news for Agilent. But and you could do this manually, of course. But the problem with doing this manually is that there's like there could be like thousands, if not tens of thousands of things that you're trying to read, and it's hard to do manually. So using machine learning, you can do it a lot faster. So you'll basically put the articles through the sentiment analyzer and then return a sentiment score. And then down here, what we're doing is we're going to be basically scraping the articles from Beautiful Soup using Beautiful Soup here. Beautiful Soup, it's not like a weird name, but basically it's just a way both requests and Beautiful Soup are used as ways to scrape content off of websites. So we scrape the website, the data off the articles off the website. And then what we're doing now is we're basically compiling it down into a table. And then basically what we're doing here is we are parsing it, right? We're basically parsing it and then doing the sentiment analysis down here to see what is the sentiment for each of the articles. So you can see down here, this is the results. And if I'm going too fast for you guys, just let me know. So you can see that the articles that we scraped for Agilent, and then you can see the score, right? So booking host post, Q2 earnings, that's probably kind of neutral. So it's kind of 0. What's in the cards for, it's probably Agilent is in there somewhere, slightly negative. And then there's one where that it thought it was positive for the stock. So it will go through and then provide a sentiment score for each one of them. And then what we do is we then need to take this score and we need to put it together to assemble our training data for the model. So okay, so down here, what we're doing here is I have this little function that will call the Alpaca APIs and get the data for Agilent. And so with those functions defined, what I'm doing down here is I'm basically getting data between 2.1 to 3.1 and building up a data frame for the training. And then I'm creating some features based off of time that would help the model better predict what's going on. And then what I did down here is I basically put in the sentiment score that I calculated above, and as well as a bunch of, you see I put in a bunch of common technical analysis functions, right? That's based off of the closing price of the stock. Then I join it together, and then to see what this looks like for just one of the sentiment, one of the pieces of training data, you could see, you have the close price as well as what the indicator was, and then also what the sentiment was. So you see that if I were to print this whole thing out, you'd have like a whole bunch of columns here. And then the next thing I do is I need to do the same thing. So it's basically pretty much the same thing, except now I'm now doing it for the test period, right? So 3/1 to 3/15. So I do all that, and I get a similar data frame. So this is one which kind of shows you all the different columns that we have, and this is what I'll be evaluating the model against. Okay, so now that we have the data frame, the training data frame set up, what we have to do now is we have to actually do the training of the model. So we're predicting 15 minutes in the future, and we're doing this on a rolling basis. So what's happening is that we have this window, and it's rolling forward. So the window, the prediction we're making is always 15 minutes in the future. So it's what you call like a rolling prediction. And so what we're doing here is we're training it for each of those periods, and then making a prediction, and then appending the prediction to our predictions variable here, and then so then basically we save all of that, and then let me show you what it looks like. Okay, so now with our predictions, we have this kind of appended. Let me show you the data frame. So we have the prediction appended nicely to our data frame here. And then we could plot out how did the predicted do against the close price. So as you can see, and the straight lines are basically the weekends when the market's closed. Like if you do in crypto, the market never closes. So you don't have this kind of stuff. But for traditional stocks, the market closes all the time. So ignore the straight lines and look at the squiggles, right? So for the squiggles, you can see it's actually doing a fairly decent job. Again, we're only forecasting 15 minutes in the future, so it's not terribly hard to forecast that. Now, the one neat thing about using the random forest model is it tells you something called feature importance. So it will tell you, which feature was most important, which feature was least important. And you can see that RSI was actually a pretty important feature. So it's no surprise that a lot of people would tend to use it. Okay, so now let's look at what is the mean squared error, which is a great way of measuring. It's 0.26. So given that the stock price of Agilent is, let me go back here and show you the graph here. You can see stock price is in hundreds of dollars, and MSE mean squared error of 0.26 is not bad, right? Not bad. I can tell 0.25% error, so pretty low. Okay, now so we did this model with the using the NLP, or using the basically the news sources here as a feature for the model, right? And the way you got to think about machine learning forecasting is each of these signals, right? The historical close price of the stock, the news feed, the CPI of the economy. Each of these data sources have some predicted signal for the stock, and basically, what you're trying to do is you're trying to mine this predictive signal for each of these predictive signals, right? You're trying to mine as much of the real prediction out of it. And so you want to be able to use more advanced models, use different features. You want to be able to get as much of that out of there as possible. So let's see if we do the same exact thing, but we don't include the NLP. So basically, so what we're going to do here is we're going to do the same thing, but take out the NLP, this basically the sentiment, and see how the results are, right? So that's basically what the code here is doing. And so when we evaluate against ANOVA, we'll see that a really low p-value, right? So basically it shows that the NLP indicator, even though it's not a huge signal, right? It was significant for the model. So so anyway, so this is essentially how the program I just kicked off what's it doing and how it works in the code for it. So now let me kind of go back and also talk a little bit about how the the trigger works, right? So there's two parts here. There's the forecast. There's a forecast, and then there's also the trigger. So what the trigger is if the close price is less than the predicted amount times a certain threshold, right? Like in my case, I'd use 0.3. Then basically that means the stock is going to go up. It's predicted to go up. So you want to buy a certain number of shares. In my case, in the code I ran is like 10 shares, right? Now, if the close price is higher than the predicted, that means that the stock's probably going to fall, right? So then we want to sell, let's say 10 shares, right? Otherwise, not do anything, right? So that's essentially how the trigger works. So it's a very, very simple, very simple trigger. I'm looking at the run here. It's still running. So let me show you guys something else in terms of how you could be encapsulated together with Lumabot. Oh man, my cloud shell just here. Let me see if I can get this going. Okay, so Lumabot has something called Lumabot, which is an open source on GitHub that has. So if you don't want to use like a service like mine, but you wanted to do it on your own, you can use Lumabot, which is an open source bot that's integrated to Alpaca and also the machine learning forecast here. So let me load this again. It timed out on me. So let me open this up again. Okay, so if you guys don't know, this is Google Cloud, and in Google Cloud they have something called Cloud Shell, and so you can actually do a lot of development in here. It's pretty nice. They actually don't charge you for it, so it's a pretty good deal. Okay, we'll let that go. It's going to establish a connection. Actually, it looks like the other one just finished. So let me bring up the results for you guys. Okay. Oh, actually, let me get this kicked off first. Now that's loaded. Okay, let me start this. Okay, so this is going to run. Okay, let me let this run. Let's go back to the results here. Let me bring it up. Okay, so using the rolling random forest with the NLP for Agilent, and just using the simple trigger. So you could see, this we only did like a day or so, so there's not a lot of trading going on here, but you could see that it went up. There was a net profit. It's a very short period, but it's a nice CAGR. So a compound annual growth rate is almost 30%. The Sharpe Ratio is like a little bit over 4 here, so it's pretty good. Let me move this bar here. Yeah, so you can kind of see the stats of this. So this is kind of like why people do machine learning, is because you're able to do a lot of stuff automatically with many times decent results, especially if you have a good forecast. Let me see if I can bring back the. Oh, that's why I have to authorize it. Authorize it. Okay, so let me let this run. I think I have some saved results already, but let me just walk through some of this with you guys. So uh, so um, here in the code, you see the machine learning strategy. So this is basically, uh, so the way to think about it is you do a lot of your machine learning development in Collab because it's interactive and like a Jupyter notebook allows you to do a lot of experimentation. But once you have that kind of figured out and locked down, what you could do is you could go to, let's say, LumaBot here, or you can go to like a service like mine and have it instantiated, right? So this is basically taking the Collab code that you saw earlier and instantiating it into a Python file, right? So it's not really interactive anymore. It'll just run automatically. And so basically what you have here is the same machine learning model that we had before, that I walked through before with you. And it's instantiated here. And what this is doing, if you go down here, is you could see that it's basically, we're going to do a back test, and then we're going to do a live trade. Right now, the market's totally closed, so it's just going to sit there and wait. But it did a back test. And when it did the back test here, it actually has the log files here. So let me open up the log files. I just realized this is probably super small for you guys. So I don't know if it's, maybe make it a little bit bigger, perhaps. Okay. So here you can just see some of the runs, right? So you can see the statistics for the run, right? How things went. It's probably a little bit easier to see in like a this is a CSV file, so it's probably a little bit easier to see in a spreadsheet. You can see what trades it did, and then you could see. Well, I have to download this. You can see kind of a graph of the different trades when it bought and sold. So it's a kind of nice visualization. Anyways, it's a great way to, once you've done the R&D development for your model, your forecasting model. This is how you actually make it run. So let me jump back to the presentation now. So many windows open. Yeah, so the demo I showed you basically showed you a lot of common indicators as features. And then we used a random forest model and we forecasted 15 minutes of future. I showed you two different ways to do trading. One with is like a service like mine. One another way is using some open source packages, LumaBot. In the course, we're going to go into a lot more detail. Of course, we're going to talk about the machine learning basics. We're going to go into deep learning. We're going to talk about how to build a stock forecasting models, what features to use, how to optimize it, how to figure out the error rates. And so this is kind of like a super condensed down version of what we'll be doing. The goal of the class is really to have you guys walk out of the class with a working forecasting model for your security that you guys could use to do algorithmic trading on. That's the goal of the class. So we have the class every week, but we also have office hours as well. One other thing that people have done, a lot of the students have done, is they've kind of self-organized a lot of study groups, and I also encourage that. Some people have actually teamed up together afterwards to build bots together, so that's also a good thing. John V asked a question: is there any additional tax liability or cost to consider when doing robo trading? No, not really. The only difference, of course, is that you typically with algorithmic trading, you're doing a lot more trades, right? You're doing a lot more frequent trades. You're doing more trades where you're just forecasting a little bit in the future. For like long-term, like fundamental trading, like Warren Buffett type of trading, where you're buying Coca-Cola and holding it for 40 years. That's better. Humans are better at that kind of stuff when there's like sparse amounts of data, but when there's large amounts of data, especially when short-term trading, machine learning is way better for that. But the only consequence would be that you're definitely be calculating your taxes using a computer, right? You're not going to be doing it manually because there's going to be a lot of kind of like small trades that are happening. But good question, John V. So I showed you also guys the LumaBot demo, all right, the training demo with the forecast. This was happening in Google Cloud Shell with VS Code. Again, there's no charge for this inside of Google, so it's a pretty good deal. They charge if you want to run on a virtual machine, but if you're just developing it in VS Code, there's no charge. So, so the flow is you develop in Google Colab, you do all that interactive Python, you figure out what all the experience you have to do to get this really working. Then once you do that, you then drop it into, let's say, LumaBot, or you could drop it into a service like ours. And so this is what your final project will look like. Basically, kind of what the example code that I just went over. So in terms of the course, I'm going to hand this back over to Robert, who's going to describe a little bit more about the machine learning forecasting training course. So Robert, do you want to take it from here?
Yeah, sure. Awesome. Thanks for that, Greg. There's always a pleasure seeing that sort of thing. Definitely some really, really cool stuff that you do with machine learning. Do you want to click into the course a little bit here?
Yes, I actually have it open already. So let me pull it up here.
All right, awesome. You want to scroll up to the top?
Sure.
All right, so if you guys are interested in taking this course, which I know a lot of you guys are, speak to a lot of you guys already. Actually, you know what? There's a chat here. I don't know. Is there any additional tax liability or cost to consider when doing robo?
Oh, we answered that already, Robert.
Okay, cool, awesome. I must have missed that. Okay, great. So yeah, so if you guys are interested in taking this course, definitely very exciting to take this and learn this sort of thing. I've seen some people build some really, really cool stuff using machine learning. Really, there's 3 different plans they could join with, right? There's our self-directed plan, our live trading plan, or live classes plan, and our project help and tutoring plan. So yeah, so those are our 3 plans there, right? So the self-directed plan, basically what it is, a little higher up, right? The self-directed plan, what it is basically it's, you get to watch the pre-recorded videos, you get to see some of Greg's past classes, you get to watch those videos and go through them. You get to have access to the code library, so all the code that Greg has built out, you get access to all that stuff. You get access to obviously all the slides, all that sort of thing. You get access to our community, which means that you get private access to everyone else who's doing the course with you, but also any of our other courses. You get to be part of our voice channels and all that. We're also working on building some study groups to make it a lot easier for you guys to get to know other people. And it's one thing to talk over chat, but it's another thing to talk over voice as well, and kind of get to know people that way. So you get access to all those things in a self-directed plan. And it's really, really quite a great package, right? But then there's also our live course plan, our live classes plan. This is definitely the most popular plan that we have. And what it is you basically get everything from self-directed. You get that community aspect, you get the recordings of the courses, you get the code library, all that sort of stuff. But then you also get to be part of a live class, right? So a lot like this, a lot like what Greg is doing right now, except imagine you guys can turn on your microphones and you could turn on your video cameras if that's what you want, right? And you could interact live, right? So as Greg is teaching these concepts and you're like, oh, does this make sense? Or maybe you're a little confused or lost somewhere, you could ask him right on the spot and he'll explain to you. And you'll get that kind of interaction, right? So if you have any questions, you want to learn directly from the source, you'll be able to interact with Greg. You also get a lot of you'll be able to get some one-on-one time with him. So if you want to jump on a Zoom call, he could jump on Zoom calls with you and basically take any of your questions and help you out. Like if you're stuck or if you want to build a specific project or whatever, you'll get access to Greg and he could basically help you out with all that sort of stuff as well. Another really good thing about the live class plan is that this is access forever, right? So if you buy the class now and you want to retake the class for whatever reason in a couple of months, maybe something happened with work or, maybe you're moving or whatever, maybe you had a new kid or something, right? Life happens, right? If you want to retake the class, you're more than welcome to do that unlimited amount of times, right? One other thing about the live classes I want to mention, also keep in mind that the live classes are the newest and the greatest type stuff. This class keeps improving time after time. I know Greg is always adding in new things. So a lot of times when you're actually in a live class, you can kind of influence that a little bit. You can influence kind of like what material we're going to cover and what we're going to do. And any of this new stuff that Greg is creating, you're going to have first dibs on it, right? So a live class is really, really where most of our students go into. It's really, it's like being part of an actual classroom, right? Like imagine being in a classroom in person, except learning something very specific, right? Like, I mean, you could find, wherever you are, I'm sure Python classes or something like that, but something very specific like machine learning for trading is, outside of maybe San Francisco and New York, you're not going to really find these things, but you're going to have that kind of experience in these classes, right? Then we also have our project help and tutoring plan, which is basically like the white glove service, right? You'll be able to take everything that you get in the other ones as well, the self-directed and live, you get all of that, plus you really get a lot of additional help, right? So if you really want extra one-on-one time with Greg, there's a plan to get. If you want extra one-on-one time with myself or any of our other engineers or instructors, this is the plan to get. Really, you're going to get a lot of that one-on-one time. A lot of people that buy these project help and tutoring plans, we even sit down and actually just write code for you, right? A lot of times those build things for you if that's what you need, right? So really, it's a white glove services. You really get a lot out of it for doing this sort of thing, right? Okay, so here are the prices for those course plans at the bottom here. Like I said, the self-directed plan, that's the first one from the left. It's basically, pre-recorded classes. You get to go through all these classes. No problem. You get to go through all these classes. It's pre-recorded videos. You get access to all the code. You get access to all the slides and all that sort of thing. And you also get access to Greg over Discord. You can chat through and he'll answer some questions for you. This course plan is $14.98, right? Keep in mind, you could also, if you want to get a 3-month or a 5-month payment plan on this, they're both available. As soon as you add to cart and you go through a checkout, you can pick 3 or 5-month payment plans if that's what you wish. So that's for the self-directed plan. You could read the check marks there and learn a little bit more about it if you want. Basically what I just went over, if you want to like follow it. For the live classes, right, that's $34.95. And again, you get to join this live class over Zoom. You could ask questions right when the course is happening. So if you're stuck or if you don't understand something or whatever, you could ask Greg during that class and he could explain all that stuff to you. He'll also be able to get on these one-on-one calls with you and explain things there. So you really get a lot of Greg's time to really help you build out what you're looking to build, right? And explain things and make sure you don't get stuck when you, like for me, I know whenever I'm like learning something new, it's funny how, you can spend 4 hours trying to figure something out and really all you need is 5 minutes of Greg's time and he can figure it out for you to skip all those steps. So definitely the live class is our biggest seller and what people are usually most interested in, right? Then again, we also have that the project help and tutoring plan. That one's $52.83. And that's if you really need additional help, if you really want, either Greg or myself or any of our other instructors to really step in and help out with what you're building. We'll have our developers build out things. Whatever you need, we'll basically go out there and help you out, right? And there's we even write down here how many hours you get of one-on-one time and all that sort of thing. Just know that with the project help and tutoring plan, we say 12 hours. Sometimes we'll spend even a lot more than that. Whatever it takes to get you to the spot that you want to get to, right? Cool. So those are our 3 plans. If you scroll down, you could read about, what is machine learning and the outcomes, and I'll let you guys read up on that if you want. By the way, we should send this. I'm just going to put this link here as well, just so you guys have access to it. I'm going to put this into the chat. Okay, there you go. So you got that link in the chat now, right? So in case you guys want to go through this page yourselves as well. And then you can scroll down a bit more and then we can talk about the course curriculum. Greg, do you want to take that? Because
sure, of course. Yeah, so we have this broken up into several parts. The first part is really just the fundamentals of machine learning. So the setup, right, kind of the intro. People a lot of times set up study groups at this point in time. We go over the basics of machine learning. We go over some of the really fundamental models, and then talk about what deep learning is and when to use it. And then we talk about how to optimize it. And we use a lot of the services out there, so it makes it a lot easier to do machine learning. And then, oops. And then in terms of the project, we actually build something that you're actually going to use, right? So we build a time series forecaster, and this is for your security. So this is not just generic one. This is everyone picks like their favorite security they're trying to forecast, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, MicroStrategy or whatever it is, right? So you build that, and then you try to optimize it. So that's the first project. And the capstone project basically is building off of the first project. And what we're doing is we are hooking up to different news feeds, right? Because like I said, each of these data sources has a certain amount of predictive signal that you're trying to mine from it. And so, and that's what we're doing here is we're getting access to a lot of the the natural language processing based data sources to basically give a higher fidelity signal to our model to make a forecast. So so it's kind of three different parts. We the way we structure it is every single week the homeworks are building off of each other so that by the end you have a completed project that you could actually do some trading with and hopefully make some money. So that's how we structure it. It's very focused on being practical, not terribly theory heavy. We do have some pointers if you want to get more about theory, but this is really focused for people who want to actually do machine learning and use it for algorithmic trading. Okay, so let me jump back to the presentation.
So let's talk about Greg. Let's talk about also the start dates.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Sorry, that's the most important piece. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Yeah. So the next class registration ends on December 30th, right? So if you guys want to register, make sure you sign up by then. We also have an early bird special, which is still on here, but that did end on November 30th, so we got to delete that. But registration for this class closes on December 30th, right? So make sure you sign up before then. The class itself starts on January 13th, which is a Thursday, right? So it's going to be on Thursday, January 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern or 5 p.m. Pacific. The lectures themselves, they tend to be about 1.5 to 2 hours. Greg, you think give or take about 2 hours or so, right? And it's live over Zoom, right? So about 1.5, 2 hours, right? Yeah, and it goes for 8 weeks long, right? So we have an 8 week long course starting January 13th, every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And it's about 2 hours per lecture, right? And then do you want to scroll down a little bit? And then we also have the 2 course projects that we cover here.
Yeah. So as I was saying, the project one is basically just build a price forecaster, right? And then the second one is we're using a lot of the human readable data sources. So this is a huge differentiator because very few people are able to do this. So it gives you an edge for your security that you're trying to trade.
Great, perfect. And then, so we have the 2 projects there, and I believe Greg talked about that. We have also a little bit of information about Greg up there as well, right? So if you guys want to read a little bit more about him, I don't think we have your LinkedIn there. Maybe we should add your LinkedIn there as well.
Oh yeah, that's
if you guys want to read a little bit about Greg, I can go ahead there. And then we also have testimonials from some past students, right? So a lot of these students, they've taken several of our classes, right? So Geem has taken, I know he's actually in your machine learning class right now, right? So he's actually taking this machine learning class right now. He also took our algorithmic trading course. If you guys want to read a little bit or watch a little bit about him or read a little bit about him. Renee was one of our past students as well. He did some really cool stuff. If you scroll down here, we also have Santayan, who I believe also took the machine learning class as well with you, Greg, and took our algorithmic trading course. And then Joel, I think he's taken every single one of our classes so far.
He's a great student, actually.
Yeah. Joel definitely has built some really cool stuff. Honestly, his bot has been doing like some really, really cool things. So feel free, guys. Don't take our word for it. Listen to our students, listen to our past customers. You can watch what they've done here, and just learn a little bit about other people's experiences and how it went for them. Right. Right, and that's I think that's about it for this page here. Right.
Great. Okay, guys. Any questions? Put it in the chat or on the Q&A site, and Robert or I can answer the questions.
Cool, awesome. We'll leave a little bit of time for people to type out their questions, because I know sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Greg, without saying too much about your clients and or anything like that, are there any machine learning algorithms that you've seen lately that have been doing some pretty cool things?
Yeah, kind of the rage these days is transformer, right? So transformer largely has been used with NLP type models.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's like the GPT-3 type of things. But what's interesting is that people are also starting to use it for forecasting. So it's kind of interesting. I think that I think the results aren't quite as stunning as they've been for NLP. I think NLP is a real big game changer because before transformer, you have to use recurrent neural nets, and recurrent neural nets, they're not very acceleratable by GPUs, graphical processing units. So it didn't really, you can only have models that are so big and do only so much training on them because of that. But with transformers, it's what you call a feed forward type of model where there's no feedback loops. And so you don't have this issue with being acceleratable by GPUs. And so, transformers allow GPT or just NLP models in general to be massive, like billions and billions of parameters, right? So they're able to produce some really nice results. On the time series forecasting, the big challenge with time series forecasting is that you can't generate more time. So, when like NLP or computer vision, you go label more cats and dogs, right? So, you don't have to have a shortage of data, but with time series forecasting, you only have so much time. The stock market's only open so much, so you only have so much training data. So you tend to be limited by the amount of data you have. I think with NLP, then there's tons of text on the web, so there's no shortage of written text. And so, being able to process all that data into gigantic models was the barrier. But with time series forecasting, the big barrier really is getting enough data, enough training data. So the time series models tend to be a bit smaller as a result.
Okay, interesting, cool. Yeah, so the a lot of this NLP, so reading text on the internet, basically has been producing some really cool stuff.
Yeah, and I mean that's something that's really huge because as humans, for us, we learn to read, so we don't think too much about it. But for computers, a lot of the models that computers use do not use NLP, do not use human readable text, and so there's a lot of there's a lot of predictive signals in human readable text, right? You think about like, you know, people controlling these stock trades are humans, right? So you think about the way people are chatting on Wall Street Bets, the way people are chatting on Twitter, right? I mean, it has a pretty big impact, right? So being able to process a lot of those communications is quite useful, actually. So yeah, so it's one of the reason why for the second project we really push heavy on the NLP side, because you want to be able to get these kind of data sources for your model.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. I mean, I've definitely heard of some really cool stuff lately. Everything from reading influencers' messages, right, to reading like Discord channels, reading
Yep.
Telegram,
Yep.
reading the news, obviously,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But it's funny how these days the news is not even that big of a source of information as compared to how many things people write themselves, right?
Yeah.
Reddit and all that. That's very, very cool. Awesome.
Well, just want to thank everyone for participating in the class. I mean, this webinar. Hope you guys can join our class. I know Robert, it tends to fill up a bit, so hopefully, if you guys missed this one, you guys can always go to the next one. We have them every 3 months or so. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the next one starts January 13th. So that's a Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, right? Hope to see you guys there.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thank you, Robert.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Have a good night, guys.